Whoa.
Extra, extra.
Read all about it. Crisscross and
applesauce.
Christopher Cross and Air Supply?
Yeah.
Yeah, they're coming to town apparently.
Yeah.
What a weird mix, because Crisscross wears everything inside out?
Yeah, backwards.
Backwards, okay.
Yeah, that's yacht rock. And speaking of yachts, they go out in the ocean. And what's out in the ocean? Potentially Cthulhu. Boop. That's what we're going to talk about today on the Kooks, Cranks, and Iconoclast podcast. I'm Mike.
I'm Matt.
And I'm J-Lo.
And today we are covering the one, the only, sometimes just fucking irritating, H.P. Lovecraft.
Oh, no.
Yeah, it's going to be a good one. We're going to talk about H.P. Lovecraft's life. We're going to talk about his...
Love?
Yes, we're going to talk about his overriding philosophy of cosmicism. We're going to talk about his potential occult connections. And leading into that, this is a two for one, count 'em, two-parter episode. We're going to cover the Necronomicon next. Stay tuned.
It's going to be great.
It is.
Yeah. What is it when you look into the abyss?
Nostalgia.
You fall in love.
Just kidding.
Yeah. I think that's that hit song.
Yeah, the man who fights monsters must take caution lest he become one himself. And that...
Be warned, ladies.
That right there is where you get The Dark Knight Part 2.
One of my favorite lines from a H.P. Lovecraft book is he was a success, or he was a victim of his successes as much as he, referring to somebody else, was a victim of his failures. And man, like the guy's, his writing style is very unique.
It's purple prose, I'd call it.
You could pick it up out of a lineup if you had to.
But that's kind of what lended to his overall sort of like, he's well known for sort of blending fiction and reality because he uses this sort of like, he wrote as like news articles or like letters between people to sort of add to this verisimilitude, I believe the word is, of reality that had people often questioning like, oh, did this particular event really happen here? And people sort of cross-referenced his works quite a bit to, because they thought he was talking about real things. And that played quite a bit into much of what we will be discussing later.
Yeah, it's too bad he didn't write listicles because everybody's making their nut off listicles now.
Yeah.
Anyways, I think Mike just built a house
left and right.
I got a couple listicles in here.
Anyways, a couple of basic facts about his bio. Born August 20th, 1890 in Providence, Rhode Island, the biggest city in Rhode Island.
And also where the Farley brothers make all their movies.
That's right. Dead on March 15th, Mike, 1937.
That's my birthday.
Providence, Rhode Island, from intestinal cancer. It appears that I got the note at 46.
I believe it was 37.
He died in 37.
Oh, okay.
Age
I know.
46.
Okay, yeah. He died fairly young.
Yeah,
I know that. So.
He died from what he called the grip because...
Oh, how creative.
Yeah, he didn't want to go see a doctor.
Yeah, he was ridiculously nocturnal. He'd like go out for walks at night and like enjoy the architecture, quote unquote, building houses. He went out at night for the sole reason of like he wanted to like look at people's houses and buildings, etc., and enjoy the architecture.
Trying to avoid people.
Yes, exactly. He did it so he didn't have to avoid people. Because if he did it at the daytime, and he's like looking at someone's house, then you got to explain yourself, as opposed to nighttime when
it's less creepy.
Yeah.
Anyways, a lifelong love of science, but born with poor health. It prevented him from attending college. He was a ghostwriter and a rewrite man. I guess that's their equivalent of punch-up.
Yeah, sounds about right.
He spent most of his life in poverty, like most artists, present company included.
Oh, yeah.
Was not...
Mail me a sandwich.
And was not appreciated until after his death. And his alleged pen name, found this out recently, Grandpa Theobald.
That's one of them, yeah.
Yeah. And,
he liked to play little characters with his friends. He was very... he was a cantankerous bastard, but I don't know. If you got to know him, I guess he sort of loosened up a bit.
He's alleged to have the largest library of correspondence
Oh, yeah.
in recent history. Like it's over 100,000 letters.
That also goes to prove just how weirdly social anxiety ridden he was.
hand typed in his own blood.
Why are you guys talking about me like that?
So he got his first taste of fame from his stories in a magazine called Weird Tales, and he was known for his short stories and literary acumen, in combination with his knowledge of New England geography and the culture that propelled him into his place in history. So, like, he'd use basically what Stephen King does about
New England.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's basically like a character in his works almost.
Yeah, it's
He sort of built I guess a genius Loki around like he gave it a living spirit, so to speak.
so some of his famous works: The Case of Charles Dexter Ward, At the Mountains of Madness, and The Shadow of Innsmouth.
Shadow
Call of
over
Cthulhu?
Innsmouth.
Over?
The Shadow over Innsmouth. Yeah.
There you go. He was considered to be in the same
And
vein.
Call of Cthulhu, yes.
Yes.
Of course.
We'll get to that mythos before too much longer. He's considered to be in the same vein as Octavia E. Butler, Stephen King, huge fucking fan. Stephen King always said, I just recommend everybody read H.P. Lovecraft.
Yeah, he kind of helped kickstart or lend to the resurgence in his popularity.
And Ray Bradbury and Edgar Allan Poe.
Allan Poe.
Yeah. Who still has an open invite to the show if he ever wants to join us.
Bring your absinthe.
And I'm just trying to get these files and dossiers squared away.
I'll get the proton pack and the ectoplasm.
Yeah, well, that's what we're calling it. His father was named Winfield Scott Lovecraft. Apparently, they're a huge fan of the Mexican-American War.
That's a weird thing to be a fan of.
I mean, Winfield Scott was a cool guy, I guess.
I love slaughter.
Yeah. I love victory and invading. So he had a bad case of
Tertiary syphilis. The kind that mutates your face and drives you insane.
which put him in an insane asylum when HP was just a kid.
Just a wee lad.
His mother was born to a wealthy old aristocracy.
Aristocratic,
Thank you.
yeah. The aristocrats.
The aristocrats in Rhode Island. And he spent much of his childhood around his maternal grandfather, known for his literary acumen as well. Quite the reader.
Yeah, one grandpa, Whipple Van Buren Lovecraft. Don't squeeze the Charmin. Yes, his sole male role model. He was also known to have a magnanimously huge library full of full of mythological tales, religious books, spiritual, anthropological, and being that he was also a high-ranking Freemason, it's alleged quite a few occult books, which we will touch on again later. Back to you.
Thank you. An excellent storyteller and a well-read man, as Mike just informed everybody.
I thought you were talking about Mike.
Well, they can both be true.
Yeah. Thanks.
Mike, just stay humble, okay? So
I'm like the most humble of anyone I know.
I'm the most humble person I know. HP was homeschooled. Weird. Not really. It's fine.
No.
I mean, if you're into that sort of thing.
That's okay now, I guess.
When he was just a child, he was already reading advanced works like Arabian Nights, Edgar Allan Poe, etc. And by 6, he began suffering what they call in the biz night terrors.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, his vivid dream life, largely due in part to what he consumed in his grandfather's library, lent to his very extremely vivid dream life. And this would also come into play later. It was just riddled with night terrors and an as yet undiagnosed form of sleep paralysis as well, which it's extremely terrifying if you've gone through it. I've had a few cases myself. It'll make you not want to fucking sleep again, that's for sure.
That's for sure.
I believe that his experiences as a 6-year-old probably play a pretty big role in his views on cosmicism.
All that trauma and neuroses.
I see a lot of correlations there, but I'm no Dr. Freud.
Freud would have a field day with this guy, man. Yeah, he remarked that he preferred the hard sciences of Einstein and Darwin as opposed to the pseudoscience of Freud, who would probably write up quite the case study on a man like Lovecraft due to his racist xenophobia, as well as his preoccupation and revulsion with such things as tentacles, slime, marine life, etc. Who knows, man? It's all throughout his writing. It reoccurs again and again. These themes are incredibly strange, and I don't know. He's often been accused of being very almost asexual, but sex does show up in some of his writings. It's always in the background, though, and it's always somehow supernaturally tainted or wrong and gross and filthy.
And how much of his upbringing do you all think that he is reacting to in this way? You know what I'm saying?
Oh, I mean, it definitely
gets worse.
Yeah.
Oh, boy.
So at 14 years old, his granddad died from a stroke.
No.
Oh.
Maybe
Bye-bye, Whipple.
could have been from squeezing the Charmin. We're not sure. And due to the mismanagement of the family fortune, and him and his mother found themselves living in a cramped apartment, and the psychological shock of going from a very
Wealthy, well-to-do.
wealthy, leisurely life ended up going down to, hey, you eat that rat.
That's protein.
Yeah, don't waste that protein. Was enough to make him attempt the quote-unquote forever sleep. He tried to drown himself in the Barrington River.
That's odd that he went with that route, too, because of all the, weird marine life preoccupations, entities living in the water, etc.
I think it was just that it was so cold he'd probably get hypothermia.
And just shock out.
Yeah. I mean, you don't need much time, right? It's like those people that died on the Titanic were in there 3 minutes before they froze to death.
But that's like one of those methods of, let's say, self-checkout. Not the kind at Walmart. That, your body, instinctually, fights against. Like, your body won't let you, cut off your own leg or whatever with a bandsaw.
Self-preservation.
Exactly, yeah. So, knowing, maybe he didn't know specifically, but still, it's all very odd that was the specific route that he, went towards. Anywho.
So, 1908, good news, he survived the attempt. 1908 was the year he became a shut-in and the inspiration for Norman Bates. His mother began to heavily criticize her son while becoming more and more dependent on his companionship.
Wow.
And
Principal Skinner much?
Yeah, over dominating and all that.
Yeah, Robert Bloch, who would later go on to write Psycho, very much quite likely based Norman Bates in part
Speculation.
upon Lovecraft. Yes. Hey, we love to speculate here.
Speculation only.
Supposedly, allegedly.
That was quite frankly, not frank quietly.
Editorially speaking. 1913 to 1922, he had befriended a pulp comic writer, Jackson. The guy wrote romance stuff and all this stuff. But it turns out, for fun.
For fun. I did it for fun.
Yeah, H.P. Lovecraft would just troll this dude and write back to him and talk trash, and usually it was in prose.
Not cons.
He would. Well, it was very Shakespearean the way the coda came out.
I shit thee nay.
These fuck you letters, as this show has come to know them as, in 1914, gained the attention of the editor of the magazine, Edward F. Doss.
The ass.
The ass. Can't forget to edit the ass.
Yeah.
H.P. Lovecraft was offered a job writing for the United Amateur Press Association, which he took to a blank.
A deep one into water.
Yes. Like one of the old gods into
the new gods,
the dream world. He had a lot of fun with it. It was a good outlet for him. It took his mind off of, how not great Rhode Island is. And in 1919, H.P.'s mother suffered a nervous breakdown. Maybe because she had been committed. In 1919, H.P.'s mother suffered a nervous breakdown. Maybe because her son had committed to being an analog content creator.
Oh, dear Jesus.
Oh, God, not
You know
one in
what
the
you're doing to your mother? We all went to clown college and you want to be a mime? Look at her, she's speechless.
Yes.
Thank you.
Anyways.
Golf clap.
Was committed to the same insane asylum as his father was and died in 1921.
That's so romantic.
Yeah, right? In a weird way. This is where we enter into a transitional stage in his life where he got rid of the domineering character of his mother and got this nice Sonia Haft Green, who...
when you say got rid of her, what do you mean?
Well, I'll never tell. So Sonia Haft
Committed
Green...
her. Had her committed?
Yeah.
I guess would be the way to put it.
Yeah, well,
committed something.
she needed to go. So Sonia Half
Crave
Green
my style, Ma.
had a hat store and was also invested in the UAPA, above mentioned United Amateur Press Association.
Haberdasher.
She was a haberdasher, making nice hats and stuff
Haberdasherist.
back when that was the thing.
Yeah.
She attended a convention where she met Lovecraft, and that's where she found out that he was a virgin.
Wah, wah, wah.
Yeah, and they hit it off real well. And
Who'd have thunk it, huh?
yeah, they handsome guy like that
Yeah.
with some hot sports opinions on
Outgoing character as
Yeah.
himself.
the guy's totally going out and meeting all kinds of women of the night. I don't see why it wouldn't be.
His name was Lovecraft.
Yeah, right.
No, it was Lloyd. I mean, what?
Before they married, she had actually purchased a bunch of books about lovemaking to give to him for the, the consummation. Wink, wink, nudge,
wow.
nudge. He read,
That increases the romance,
Yeah.
spontaneity factor in a fucking relationship right there.
being the avid reader he is, he read them all. It turns out that Lovecraft was most likely asexual and not like Godzilla where they self-reproduce, but the other one where they just aren't very interested. And they were married March 3rd, 1924, the day after Texas Independence Day. All right. 1924.
People celebrate in strange ways.
Indeed.
In 1924, just a little kickback here to our man Harry Houdini. He actually ghost wrote for Harry Houdini.
Mm-hmm.
And they
Wow.
turned out to be pretty good pen pals.
Until they met.
Yeah, until they were like, man, your mom's weird.
Yeah, he wrote, I believe it's called
Beneath the Pyramids.
Beneath the Pyramids, yes.
And then 1925, we're going to roll right through these. He moved to Red Hook, which began,
Brooklyn?
yeah. He began to hate people, including blanks and blanks.
Yeah,
And ironically, his wife was a blank.
yeah. Pretty
that's-
much anyone who wasn't H.P. Lovecraft.
Yeah, he seemed indiscriminate with his hate, but he'd say stuff like, man, these people in the city, they have no manners, they have no time.
What an asshole.
They're animals. They just don't. But he's used to being, in the middle of
Yeah.
nowhere. I guess. I mean, it's Providence, Rhode Island, man.
Yeah.
Come on.
He used to just sit on the porch and watch molasses.
Yeah.
Now he's in the hustle and bustle of the big
Watch-
city.
So he
Paint.
just defaulted to like, I'm going to hate everybody.
Pretty much, like he
He had an echo chamber of two very elderly aunts that,
growing up. So
that
and-
remembered the Civil War day by day.
Yeah,
And like they're like, oh man, I wonder what's in this new listicle about the top 10 things we didn't know about the Civil War.
and like being exposed, he's never been exposed to any other cultures, and like you'd think that growing up with the library of the myths and religions, etc., of all these other cultures from around the world, it would have done a little bit for his cultural sensitivity, but that was not the case.
That's what I don't understand. Like, there's always a genius. They have these like just as equal deficiencies.
Oh yeah,
Yes.
and this was a big one.
They put all the eggs in this one part of the basket.
Yeah, he. I don't know. Most of those myths and like recounting of like old religious tales, etc., from ye olden Bible times. Most of that stuff straight up scared the shit out of him, and I think that had a lot to do with it as well. Like why he viewed people as quote unquote barbarians or etc., savages and whatever. Fucking high upon your high horse shit.
Yeah. So
The flies.
Yeah.
when he moved to Red Hook, this will be the last time he ever saw his wife in person again, as she had started suffering from some type of ailment that required her to go to a very cool place called Cleveland.
Yeah, it was called H.P. Lovecraft-itis.
Yeah, they never divorced or anything. They were still there. Like, she lost the business of the haberdashery, which kind of sucks because, who doesn't need that in their life?
Yeah.
And it's here at Red Hook, motivated by not being at a place he wanted to be, around people he didn't like, and torn away from the woman he loved, his mother, and this other lady that tried to make him have sex all the time and stuff, that he created
How dare she?
Cthulhu upon his return. And the
bloop.
yeah, and even ironic note here, Cthulhu mythos, not coined by H.P. Lovecraft,
Nope.
coined by his boys in his pen pal circle.
Yeah. Also, later on, the Cthulhu mythos would go on to influence, well, it'd be, a cultural touchstone. It's all over the place nowadays. I find it interesting, though, that it was largely incorporated into the, let's say, occult works of many people, specifically touching on now, though, Anton LaVey and the Church of Satan and their offshoot, the Temple of Set. Even though that these entities and gods, etc., whatever you want to call them, were not evil at all, nor were they supposed to be portrayed that way at all, but rather they were immoral and entirely indifferent. And I don't know.
They exist on a plane of existence that's totally incomprehensible to man.
Yeah, whereas humanity has black and white morality and all the shades between. These things operate on a whole other level of like orange and blue.
We're in there.
I wouldn't even call that. Yeah,
we're digital on the fine level, but on the fine level, they're still not squared.
But either way, I mean, Satanism is just the code red Mountain Dew to regular Mountain Dew of Christianity. Either way, you're doing the do. So
yeah.
So in 1936, Robert Howard shot himself.
Yeah.
Oh,
which
creator of Conan.
Robert E. Howard. Yeah.
Yeah.
And
after his mother died,
he was not having a great time.
Yeah,
and,
they were good buds.
Yeah, and I think that had a lot to do with his HP's state of mind. He became more and more, if you can believe this, reclusive
and morose,
and and just dissatisfied.
It's the life of the party, that gang.
And finally, March 15th, 1937, H.P. Lovecraft died from metastasized cancer. Jeez, that was hard to say. He called it the grip because it really has him now, as God himself, he doesn't know what he's doing. Grip.
Wow. It's almost like an 80s fucking rock song.
Weird, right?
Sorry, I'm cursing too much.
But so it's almost like he like coined it like it was one of his own entities or like creatures, like he took this cancer and like made it a monster sort of, but without gathering any sort of medical or scientific knowledge about it. It sort of remained in his brain as like a, nebulous. Well, in his intestines.
Yeah, or sorry. Well, no, it's in his intestines, but the way he thought about it as like a nebulous, weird creature sort of thing. And he gave it the name the grip. It's just strange. I don't know. It seems like very much something that would go into his mythos.
So 1939, the creation of Arkham House. Yes, that Arkham House.
That's
publishing. It was a failure in the U.S. and sold only 150 copies of any of H.P. Lovecraft's books. Terrible. That sounds almost like our show sometimes. But they also...
Not a good day.
Yeah. Yes, very accurate. But they also
step by
published...
step, day by day, sorry.
They had published a lot of his works in other translations, most notably in French, which took off in post-war Europe. And H.P. had been equated to the likes of Edgar Allan Poe. Again, they found the correlation there in his darkness.
Yeah. Weird fiction.
Yeah.
He was the, the coiner of the term, and it's sort of the precursor to both, well, not a precursor, but sort of a genre on its own that incorporated both horror and sci-fi, because I would definitely relegate most of Lovecraft's work to science fiction. They're just presented in a very dark, gloomy, very moody sort of way, much along the same lines of, like, say...
The Thing.
The Thing is like a science fiction, but dark, kind of horror. Or Event Horizon is like it's like a haunted house story in a spaceship, kind of along those lines.
1974, Batman writers decide they're going to use Arkham and make it a plot point in the Batman universe.
Yeah, as an insane asylum, which just goes along perfectly with the whole Lovecraftian oeuvre, and blends perfectly into the world of Gotham City and the dark architecture of it all.
So in 1977, Stephen King wrote Carrie and encouraged people to read H.P. Lovecraft because that was the inspiration. And later that year, a dedicated group of fans had actually got together to put a large tombstone up for H.P. Lovecraft. And within a year, someone or some people had got together and decided, we're going to dig up H.P. Lovecraft's body and pull a 138. That's right, a 138. They got 3 feet down.
We are 138?
We are 138.
Okay.
He made it 3 feet down and gave up because they're like, man, there's nothing here. And it turns out that he was actually buried in the family plot not far away.
Oh.
Stupid grave robbers.
So H.P. Lovecraft 1, grave robber 0.
Yeah. They should have watched that how-to video on grave robbing that's on YouTube.
Yeah. Back in 1977.
I know.
But then when we come back, I think cosmicism and the great debate between these two very different views.
Yes, as well as a bit of a, let's say, a pre-taste of the potential innate occult abilities possessed by Lovecraft. Or did he? Who was phone? Back
Next.
after this.
And we're back.
Cthulhu Fatagan Ia.
Oh!
What's poppin' tonight, Lovecraft?
Now, we threatened this earlier,
Yeah.
but now it's true. It's come to fruition, and so it passed. That cosmicism is now our next act.
So mote it be.
So, stemming from a long fascination with astronomy, Lovecraft believed that based on the age of the universe and the brief history of man, that's roughly about 250,000 years,
No, it's 6,000.
that humanity was cosmically insignificant. Moreover, from a cosmic perspective, human history, knowledge, religion is basically rendered irrelevant. And he's right, kind of.
Yeah. But there's a freedom in that.
Yeah.
I take solace in that fact.
Until we can prove that the universe is alive, as in beyond us, you know, here on this backwater nerf-hurting planet,
Nice.
the current crawl of our species' maturation will grind away, wearing down due to the sake of convenience and resting on our laurels, which we're pretty goddamn good at.
Oh, yeah. We invented it.
There's an unlikely, I guess, for lack of a better term, advocate or ally in this, and it's Dr. Carl Sagan. They're two sides of the same coin. They both kind of have a similar belief in cosmicism. It's just one's more Professor X and one's more Malcolm X.
I think you're getting your metaphors mixed up there, buddy.
Well, I think, yeah, probably. So, like the hallmarks of cosmicism would include
By any means necessary.
yeah. Here's your universe, Sal. A fear of the unknown, the insignificance of man and its doings at large, and in contrast to the anthropomorphic philosophies in which many find intellectual reassurance, cite i.e. Carl Sagan on that, but they also, it's like I said, the other side of the coin. We're gonna solidify this thought here. According to this cosmicism philosophy, the meaning of life is best left unanswered.
Yeah, the search for knowledge and enlightenment can only lead to disaster, basically. Or, finding out things that we're not meant to know, or in the Tales of Lovecraft, drive you to madness, addiction, murder, in-game, etc.
Tacos. So it's basically a type of extreme existentialism, focusing on the uncertainty of the role of humanity in the uncaring universe. I mean, it's nature. You have to move beyond the concept of just Earth and out there. It's a vast emptiness of uncaring, volatile, violent shit, and even the Sea of Tranquility is still dotted and littered with radioactive shit.
It's an indifferently homicidal ontology in much the way that we might stroll down the sidewalk where ants are going about their business and be completely, utterly unaware of what they're doing, and still just destroy their shit. It's not good. It's not bad. It's not, evil. It's forces of nature. It's no more. It's, it's indifferent as an earthquake or a cyclone or a hurricane, etc.
Or even America's Got Talent. Anyways,
sure.
That's probably a terrible one. I'm sorry. Anyways, Lovecraft is quoted as saying about the species, the miserable denizens of a wretched little fly speck on the back door of a microscopic universe. It's,
Wow.
to kind of give you an idea of
Keeps
the
you cheery, that guy.
insignificance. Yeah, the upbeat writings of H.P. Lovecraft. Put a smile on your face, human interest story writer. And that goddamn UFO is back again.
That happens. It knows what we're talking about.
That was a quote from a letter to Maurice W. Moe, May 15th, 1918. He's also got another quote that's very fucking long, and I'm a little hesitant to read it, but I wanted to do the compare and contrast here against Carl Sagan, who is the real life living Muppet of the promoting the species.
Millions and billions.
Yeah.
Billions and trillions.
Anyways.
This is the first voice that aliens will hear.
Yes.
Yeah.
Ironically, if they do find Voyager, it will have the golden disc on there, and it will have Carl Sagan and Anne Durain, I believe is how you pronounce her last name.
Actually, I do believe we received a potential reply to that.
Yeah, the wow
Via,
message.
well, that and crop circles as well that have been mathematically decoded, but that's a whole other. Whoa, boy.
Crap circles.
Hey, man, there's something to it.
So for those of you who are Carl Sagan fans, you will remember the pale blue dot conversation or lecture or just nice little speech he gave. And I'm going to paraphrase here, every king, every warlord, every war, every piece of blood, every drop of blood spilt, everything you've ever known about anything ever, it all happened here on this little speck of dirt viewed from this picture from Voyager far out into space. I mean, the sun's not even the size of the twinkle in your daddy's eye. Oh. It's just so far out there, and it proves the fragility of not only the planet, but our species itself. And there's a debate here about cosmicism, I would think, in my understanding of it. On one side, you have Carl Sagan saying that technology and the expansion of the species into the universe will cure the woes of the species and civilization as a whole.
Potentially, yes.
Potentially, yes. Whereas, on the opposite side of that coin, H.P. Lovecraft said,
don't touch it, leave it alone.
Basically,
Pandora's box.
We're here long enough to understand, to be terrified, and we need to keep our heads down because the more we ask for knowledge, the more we're driving ourselves to insanity. And we're putting ourselves out there to be enslaved or destroyed or some fate worse than anything we can conceive of.
Tentacled.
Yeah. We'll see with this Google AI.
Yeah.
I mean,
AI is part of it, man. Transhumanism.
Even the stuff he said about like future technologies and disciplines colliding together, he didn't live to see the harness of the atom. And I mean,
but he kind of knew.
Well, they were marching towards it, but it didn't happen in his lifetime.
No.
And even before, so you have that should have been the first thing that killed us off. And luckily, we've been pretty good about not detonating the goddamn device
so far. Some have actually speculated that Lovecraft had sort of a, let's say, a rudimentary grasp on quantum physics, what with his explanations of creatures such as Yog-Sothoth, who existed not in the times or places that we know, but in between them, as well as phrases such as past, present, future, all are one in Yog-Sothoth, this sort of like transcendent viewing things from a fourth dimensional perspective. You know, a fourth dimensional object gives off a three-dimensional shadow, so...
Yes, you can also reference an episode of Cosmos in that for a little bit of a digesting the concept. The two-dimensional being will never understand the three-dimensional being's presence in there fully because they're only going to see they can't go to this point anymore. Kind of like you said earlier, or I guess, a four-dimensional being is going to cast a three-dimensional shadow.
Yeah, that's all we're going to be able to perceive.
We can't even process it. It's not a dodecahedron, but it's similar to it. It's
or is it?
Yeah, you're on secret double-decker dodeca probation robot house.
Whoa.
Yeah, right.
Because they killed the horse.
It's because they destroyed their robot servants' quarters on accident. But that stuff is where you get into these concepts of there are beings that may or may not exist, and we can't fully explain it.
Right.
But we also start giving it reality and trying to explain it.
Yeah.
And we end up giving it more power and creating entities that didn't exist prior. Like
we only ever catch a tangential, like quick, slight view of it, basically in passing. We catch like an ephemeral sense of being watched or something to that akin. Some people, mostly occultists, have posited that Lovecraft may have actually, been most likely involuntarily the sort of PR department / mouthpiece for potential, outer intelligences. And some people have actually used this as a basis to build entire let's say, thought processes, formulas for occult ritual, belief systems in general. So, or they've used it, to back up their own theoretical approaches to these. So, yeah, Lovecraft was sort of seen as a failed magician of sorts, a seer, a shaman, a dream prophet who somehow, some way, through all his night terrors and trauma and neuroses and sleep paralysis, may have, in fact, possibly connected with some far outer intelligence, something completely inhuman, and had no other way to, process it in his own mind other than to present it as fictional and sort of exercise his own demons, so to speak.
So like a self-fulfilled prophecy, sort of like using the Ouija board, but his mind was the Ouija board?
Yeah, that's a good way to put it, yeah. Exactamundo. And, like I said, yeah, by essentially, through the process of self-fulfilling prophecy, created these stories about these entities, entering our reality from outside of time and space, something so far beyond our feeble human comprehension as to, essentially everyone who does get, as we mentioned before, a slight ephemeral glance of it, a quick, what's it, use your peripherals. If you get like a peripheral sight of like a shadow man, etc., that's the kind of shit that over time is going to, drive you a little crazy. And possibly this is happening to humanity as a whole. However, there are certain occult schools and belief systems that would, I guess they would counteract that argument in saying that our interaction with non-human intelligences, which may have happened before in our past, as also posited by Lovecraft. He's actually one of the first 20th century ancient aliens proponents, more or less, in his fiction at least. Yeah, we've been touched by these things before in some way, and that they may come back. And our
Don't touch me again.
Not with those tentacles. I see what they've been. Our eventual psycho-spiritual evolution is basically counting upon our interaction with non-human intelligences to sort of prepare the way for us to become fully cosmic denizens, I guess would be the way to put it. Not so much citizens of Earth, but citizens of the universe.
So I'm going to read you guys a quote from Sagan, and I'm going to read you guys a quote from H.P. Lovecraft, and then I'm going to ask you guys a question, a philosophical question.
Ooh.
So, and then I guess we can probably take that to the end of episode 1, if that's all right with you boys.
Okay.
Sure.
So this kind of helps add a little bit of credence to the two sides of the same coin argument, which was not posited by this show first. We're late to the party,
But no one else gives it quite the panache that we do.
yes, and no one likes Carl Sagan quite as much as I do.
And no one says panache either.
Yes, moxie, spunk, panache. These are things that
Chutzpah.
they all show up here.
Yeah, we got it in loads.
Yeah, that's right. Anyways,
I won't say anything about building a house.
Okay.
so
I like the cut of your jib. I don't know what a jib is, but I like the way yours is cut.
our posturings, our imagined self-importance, the delusion that we have some privileged position in the universe are challenged by the point of pale light. Our planet is a lonely speck of great enveloping cosmic dark. In our obscurity, all this vastness, there is no hint that help will come from elsewhere to save us from ourselves. The earth is the only world so far to harbor life, known to harbor life. There is nowhere else, at least in the near future, to which this species could migrate. Visit, yes. Settle, not yet. Like it or not, for the moment, Earth is where we make our stand. It has been said that astronomy is a humbling and character-building experience. There is perhaps no better demonstration of folly of human conceits than this distant image of our tiny world, to me, Sagan. It underscores our responsibility to deal more kindly with one another and to preserve and cherish the pale blue dot, the only home we've ever known. Carl Sagan, 1994.
Oh.
This is the Professor X version I speak of.
Yeah.
I'm about to read you the Malcolm X version. It's
Magneto.
yeah, Magneto. My bad.
Post-human militant.
So Carl Sagan saw the beauty and the importance of all this, right? That we are minuscule. We need to make ourselves important, and so on and so forth.
The freedom, so to speak, in that insignificance.
Yes, where the same freedom and that insignificance, Mike, was also put down in the words of H.P. Lovecraft. Sorry, H.P. Lovecraft. We live on a placid island of ignorance in the midst of a black sea of infinity, and was not meant to voyage far. The sciences from each discipline, straining in its own different direction, have hitherto harmed us little, but someday the piecing together of our disassociated knowledge will open up such terrifying vistas of reality and of our frightening position therein, that we shall either go mad from the revelation or flee from the deadly light into the peace and safety of a new dark age. H.P. Lovecraft, Call of Cthulhu.
Yeah, and see, his version, once again, man, okay, consider the source, first of all. The man was scared of basically everything. I can see, like, and once...
Especially girls.
Yeah, the man was... he was not quite a specimen, let's just say that.
He's got a weird egg-shaped head, too. Like,
Yeah.
he's not
Hateful
helping that
man.
stereotype.
Yeah, his head is like a cylinder. But yeah, he was scared of everything. I mean, this is the age-old argument of fear of the unknown versus curiosity. I think that's what it boils down to. And curiosity is endemic to human beings. I mean, that's one of the number one things that makes us what we are.
Yeah, dude, fucking, if it wasn't, excuse me for swearing, if we hadn't started out, our species hadn't started out speciated in Africa and moved out from there on, I mean, you wouldn't have the genetic variations today that you have, man. Like, our species has done great things, and I just don't understand why people can't believe we built a pyramid. But if your species is willing to get on a reed boat in the Pacific Ocean and be like, this looks like a great place to settle down, and then you get hit by a hurricane, like, we got to move.
Yeah.
And keep moving over and over and over, and then just finding greener pastures. That was life for eons for our species.
And
you know?
trial and error, man. I mean, think about medicine in general. Like all the bloodletting and leeches and lobotomies and just horrible dark shit, electroshock therapy, etc.
My lobotomy helped.
I'd rather have a frontal lobotomy than a... No, wait, that's backwards. Never mind.
I kind of
I'd
think...
rather have a bottle in front of me than a frontal lobotomy.
Yeah, I kind of think they were both right and wrong. I mean, at least the way things are panning out.
So let me ask you this question. They've both posited that we are isolated, imprisoned almost, if you will. I'll use that in quotes.
Okay.
We're confined by distance, ignorance, and growing up in complete isolation.
That's got a flip-floppy...
I just don't think that's true.
I mean, that could have a potential flip-floppy effect as well, because, like, I've considered the fact that, like, or, well, not the fact, but the postulation that Earth is maybe quarantined from the rest of the universe, that there's something, like, innately wrong with us, or, you know, maybe...
Yeah, that we're not special, but just, like...
I think we're just not ready to be part of the cosmic family. We're too immature.
Or...
a probationary member of the intergalactic order of planets.
Yeah.
Maybe.
Or
something of the like.
Or you have the reverse of that, which is the prime directive theory, where, you know, further advanced races don't want to come down here and mess with us because it would totally screw up the whole, like, natural processes of evolution.
Whether we're supposed to survive or not.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, okay, to that argument, I would ask you, if just because we set ourselves with our values, right?
Mm-hmm.
We have values of the prime directive, and, you know, we need to protect where it's wild.
Yeah.
But we're still being visited, and people are allegedly breaking, and not necessarily people, but other entities, other things other than existence or some other format that we can't understand because you either are alive or dead, exist or don't.
Let's just say aliens.
Yeah.
Very
For
alien.
lack of a better term.
Yeah.
Very alien to our own consciousness as well.
Or our understanding of anything in any facet, period.
Well, that is an argument in ufology as well. It's like when, you know, they come down here and abduct us and, you know, we're made to undergo various, you know, medical experimentation, et cetera,
Like
or
a physical?
examination. Yes, but also it's much it's very similar to the way that naturalists and preservationists will say tag a bear and release it back into the wild. The bear has no goddamn idea what's going on. Next thing you know, it's going along minding its own business, looking for some honey, trying not to get stuck in a jar or whatever. And next thing you know, it's like it feels a sting. It's very sleepy all of a sudden. It's like, this isn't good. And then collapses and then wakes up back in the back in the wild with, hazy recollections of being examined.
I met this other bear last night.
Well, let's just say that we haven't been visited by other beings. I don't think that's true, but let's just say we haven't.
Right.
We already have the Space Force, man. We've already sent out satellites way across the solar system. We have rovers on Mars. Yeah. We're not isolated.
We are an interstellar species. I will give you that.
Yeah.
But the only evidence that
Mars is populated by robots.
Yeah, it's the only robot planet on the solar system.
So that we know of.
So, well, it's populated by our robots.
Well, yeah, that's what I'm saying.
So we are. I know this. We are an interstellar species because we are outside the solar system now, because they're like, hey, you know what? The finish line just ended because Pluto's not here anymore to be on the planetary list.
Well, yeah, and we've also just recently found very Earth-like planets.
So, well, yeah, I mean, they find that all the time. But
yeah,
those are the distances on those are so far. So get this, it's 8 minutes to cover 93 million miles from the sun, from the surface of the sun to the Earth.
For light.
Right.
For light, yes.
Yeah.
That takes 8 minutes.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And so that 8 minutes, if you had to ride that to the nearest star or the nearest star system.
I mean, you're talking a number with X's and dots and
right. Yeah, that's going to take more than your lifetime by a lot.
So that's
why they talk about generational arc ships and stuff like that. There would have to be
breaking the rules and doing quantum mechanics to jump through space and time,
wormholes, etc.
But
Alcubierre drives, things like that.
I'm not asking about what we need to do to get out. I'm asking about what they're doing to get in to us, I guess, for lack of a better term.
Well,
weird phrase, but if we're being visited and these
they're
people,
getting in us.
Oh yeah, and if they're
anal probes,
yeah, or oral, double oral, double anal probes. What I don't get is if they're actually trying to do something here and they're like we said in the John Keel episode, these things are moving around, violating all the rules that we know
of physics, of nature, etc.
But they're not. They're hardly. I mean, if they're abducting us, yes. But if they're just here to observe, they haven't done really jack crap to interfere.
And that's the other thing, man. The Tic Tac ships, if they're violating physics by moving as fast as they are and jump cutting down and over and doing all the weird cool stuff that we wish we could do.
Yeah.
Is it possible that maybe we're only in this quarantine, this isolation, the rules only apply here, and that we are finding out rules that apply outside of the quarantine zone, and that they're able to do it because they have the override?
I think we got a lot more attention since the atom bomb exploded.
Yeah, there's a lot of. Well, I mean, it depends on your what story and narrative of ufology you're listening to, because some people say we've been visited, periodically all throughout history. But
just checking in, housekeeping.
Yeah, one of the big major arguments in ufology is it's split down the middle mostly, outside of a few outliers that are just totally goddamn kooky. That you have the nuts and bolts. These things are actual machines piloted by biological entities. And then you have the argument that these are sort of psychic beings, or at least halfway psychic, immaterial. They're higher dimensional. They're operating within physics, but beyond the physics available to us.
Yeah, we understand them as we see the fourth dimensional being through a third dimensional world.
Exactly.
And our understanding, when we say alien on this show in this context, we mean completely foreign to any thought or concept conceivable to man, because the unspeakable horrors of H.P. Lovecraft, he means it's just not conceivable. Cthulhu is just the only way man can pronounce it.
It's such an immense concept that it barely fits your mind. It overflows.
And if you begin to understand it, you will go bat-ass crazy. Mm-hmm. And I just...
Guano.
This whole concept of being completely terrified, of leaving the safety of the cave and the total curiosity of finding out what I can kill and eat. Because after all, I am a species called man, and it's my job to look for food and safety, shelter, sex.
It's also odd that throughout ufology you have the prevailing theory of hybridization, where most people who are being abducted there's usually a sexual / reproductive component to these abduction scenarios, where, you know, sperm or ovum or whatever are harvested, or you're just straight up, you know, subjected to a one-on-one sexual encounter with one of these beings.
They reserved a room.
Yeah, exactly, with a little peephole for quality control.
We'll see. And if you're of a very terrestrial science called evolution, then you know, every species that exists today or that ever existed was speciated. It was created from a wide ranging of traits.
And that's what this is part of. And they're like leaving behind hybrids. Like it's sort of like the phenomena with the cuckoo bird, how they, you know, leave behind their, I mean, that would be the dark sci-fi horrible nightmare scenario, I think, to a degree.
So like, there's anthropologists have postured that there's probably before man actually got out of Africa,
there was a race beforehand.
There was roughly 32 variations of Homo sapien or of a hominid.
Yeah.
Right? Homo sapien is probably a little bit further down the line. But
this is supposedly where Uncanny Valley comes from, so that we wouldn't interbreed with Neanderthals, etc.
We'll see. Like
perhaps racism is innate in our primal nature, but our, like, perhaps, if you will, deic nature is above that, so we have this inner struggle. That's my hypothesis.
Yeah, halfway between insect and ape. I think like our shittiest parts are definitely like a built-in nature, but evolution and becoming a better person, is about overcoming all these shitty built-in parts, I think, and you know, just trying to be better. It's all about trying, and we're here to learn and be better. We're in a transitory state between what we were before we came here and what we're meant to be afterwards.
So this leads me to my next part of this. If we are isolated and there are people violating the Prime Directive, right?
Or things
or some entity violating the Prime Directive.
Yeah.
We're all familiar with the global deluge story, correct?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. So if that covers multiple religions, and in multiple religions there's also a man come from sky and give technology called fire.
Yeah.
Fire could also easily be an allegory for technology, right?
Yeah.
But
it usually is throughout most mythology.
And for his troubles, he was punished by being tied down to a rock and having his liver packed out
homeboy Prometheus.
Yeah, homeboy. Thank God for Prometheus, right? Or thank Prometheus, I should say. But it's a knowledge. It's a gain of knowledge that's unchecked, and I feel like it. Not feel. I think that perhaps maybe that story of Prometheus or whatever the other cultural equivalent is in any other. You would think that this is if it's worldwide, it's an allegory for knowledge and execution of said knowledge unchecked.
Yeah,
like Patton Oswalt said in that one show he did. We're science. We made cancer airborne and contagious. Should we? I don't know. We just can.
Yeah, we do it not because it's hard, but because we can.
I think in the last at least 30 years we have proven that if we can, we will. It doesn't matter how irresponsible.
Yeah. And technology basically being more or less a gift from on high, at least, you know, if you want to frame it in the mythical Promethean standard, like it's our only gift that separates us from, you know, the wild, from the savage beasts, and gives us the heads up that puts us on top of the food chains, supposedly.
So I was gonna say before we go, because we're getting ushered out here. I have one question, and it's for you, dear listener, if you wouldn't mind. What team are you on? Are you Team Lovecraft or Team Sagan? We want to hear from you in the questions and comments section there.
Yeah. Let us know at Facebook /Kooks, Cranks, and Iconoclast Podcast. What else? Oh, that's right. What's that? June 9th. We're going to be at Fan Expo. We're going to be chatting it up with the most outrageous
And illustrious.
And illustrious, yes. With mustard and ketchup. People in their costumes and craziness. We're gonna post it. You're gonna hear some recordings of it. It's gonna be good.
We're gonna have some stuff on our website.
Yes.
So you should come check out our website.
So mustard yourself up.
What's that?
We're gonna
address?
relish this.
Kooks-Cranks-and-Iconoclast.
Yeah. And you can also get a hold of us at Kooks, Cranks, and the whole word, and Kooks, Cranks, and Iconoclast at gmail.com.
We'd love to hear from you. And
Please,
guess what?
yes.
Fan Expo Dallas, Texas, by the way.
We're not done. We'll be back.
That's right. With part 2, where we cover the Necronomicon. Something like a Necronomicon. Something like a Necronomicon. Something like a Necronomicon. Hey!
Cthulhu.
Yes, sir. And ladies, this has been the Kooks, Cranks, and Iconoclast podcast. I'm Mike.
I'm Matt.
And I'm J-Lo.
And we'll see you on part 2 next week.
Love you. Bye.